Next stop, Philly-Zoo.
As many of you will already know, Aptera is now pushing to get the Launch Edition vehicle into production as soon as possible. And one side of the fundraising initiative has been the Aptera Accelerator program, and the other side from private and institutional investments. The Aptera team decided to take a short trip to St Moritz in Switzerland to the renowned Follow the Entrepreneur event in search of more investors. This gave me, as an ambassador, the rare and possibly only opportunity to see the Aptera in person on this side of the Atlantic before it enters production.
Well, it's freezing cold. It took me half a day to get here, and my wallet does feel a lot lighter. But hopefully tonight it'll be all worth it, because in this hotel behind me is the first time I'm going to see the Aptera.
And this is my first look at the Aptera. Some of you will probably have noticed that the front panel of the Gamma has no solar cells. According to Chris, they had pressured Anuj and his team to include a working PV prototype on the Gamma launch vehicle, but this was only a temporary measure because it was not a finished panel. Anuj had warned them that the construction of this panel wasn't stable, so although it was technically working, they decided to remove it and replace it with a more stable panel before this event to prevent any mishaps. But aside from this front panel, it's identical to the one that was presented in America. So I've split this video into two parts. This first video is mostly going to be about the St Moritz event itself, and the second video, which I'll post later, is going to be more about the Aptera. Because the event was such short notice and the location was quite hard to reach, not many ambassadors could make it, but I did meet a couple of other European reservation holders, and it did give us quite a lot of time with both Steve and Chris, who were more than happy to answer some of our questions. To top it off, I was the first person in Switzerland and one of the first people in Europe to get a ride in the Aptera Gamma, which was very lucky because I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. My first real-life impression is hard to put into words. I had high expectations of the Gamma and it did not disappoint. To see it on the screen is one thing, but to see Gamma in person just brought home to me how close Aptera is to production. I mean, it looked and felt like a 100% finished vehicle. I was also relieved to find that it looks smaller in real life than it does on the screen. All the talk online about it being too wide for European roads clearly wasn't true. We definitely have many wider and longer vehicles in Europe already, so this thankfully will not be an issue. In fact, if anything, the Aptera actually seemed quite compact. The inside feels bigger than expected. I'm 6 foot 2 inches and the interior felt quite spacious and very comfortable, with a good few inches of space above my head and a very good view of the road. The materials looked and felt great, with the obvious exception being the slightly rough-looking center console, which will be replaced with the more elegant metal holder for the launch vehicle. Unfortunately, the wind was very strong, and as it began to pick up, ice began to blow inside the Aptera. Steve and Chris decided it was best to move the Aptera to the back of the hotel, where it could stay in the loading bay, a little bit more sheltered for the evening event. And this is the point where Chris offered me a ride inside the Aptera, which was short, but absolutely amazing. And you can see that little ride in the next video in more detail. I did get a look under the hood of the Aptera while it was charging, but it was a big tangle of labels and notes from the engineers, so I decided against filming it. I did look as well to see if I could see a charging icon on the Aptera screen while it was charging, but it was very difficult to tell if anything was happening. As it took me a long time to get there, I unfortunately missed the Aptera running around in the snow, but I'm sure we'll be able to see that later on YouTube via the Aptera channel.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
As the evening event began, I joined the entrepreneurs and the guests were shifted from one presentation to another. Chris and Steve had already given their talk earlier in the morning and they stood outside answering as many questions as they could from all the different interested parties. For my part, I tried to stay out of their way in case I accidentally took away precious time from potential investors, and any investors that approached me, I carefully directed them towards either Steve or Chris. The evening finished with everybody gathered inside for a large buffet, and I got a chance to talk a lot to Steve and Chris, but as much as I would have liked to talk to them all night, the main reason we were all there was to find money to fund the Aptera, and so after food had finished, I encouraged Steve to go and talk to some more investors, and I tried to steer some more in their general direction. In terms of deals struck, I can tell you that there was a lot of interest in the Aptera. I can't tell you how close any of these deals are, or exactly how many investors were interested, but there was definitely quite a lot of interest from many individuals. All in all, it was an incredibly intense day, and without sounding patronizing, it was great to see Chris and Steve running between investors and trying to secure deals for the Aptera to get into production as soon as possible. They genuinely are both very nice and passionate people, and it was very reassuring that they were giving it their all. The highlight for me was of course the Aptera. Seeing just how well the car performs, and how incredibly comfortable it is, and how much more compact it seems in real life, any small doubts I had about the Aptera were blown away, and now I feel like an impatient kid that has to wait for Christmas to arrive. That's it for this video, guys. I'll post a second part soon with the ride inside the Aptera. I hope you liked it. I certainly enjoyed making it. Remember, if you'd like to reserve an Aptera, do use the link below. That will save you $30 off the $100 reservation fee, which is totally refundable. On a side note, if you're in the market for a VPN service, then do check out NordVPN using the link below. That will save you a lot of money on their award-winning VPN service. I have been using them for years, and they're very fast and easy to use. That's it, guys. I'll see you in the next video.